Hi there. During this video, we are going to do a deep dive into the business analysis technique, root cause analysis. So get ready, get your notepad, and let's learn exactly how to do a root cause analysis, as well as a root cause analysis diagram with a practical example. So this is a deep dive. I'm going to go into a lot of detail. So I hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you on the other side. Right, so let's have a look at the technique, root cause analysis. What is a root cause analysis? That's effectively the analysis to identify and evaluate the underlying causes of a problem. It's also known as a cause and effect diagram, a fishbone diagram, or a Ishikawa diagram. All of these names are really just used interchangeably in different contexts, but ultimately this technique is about getting to the root cause of a business problem. So the root cause analysis helps to organize information into a framework, which will then allow for deeper analysis if needed. Now, there are two different types of analysis. There's reactive analysis and proactive analysis. And almost like the word say, basically a reactive analysis is if you are trying to identify the root cause of a problem that is currently occurring that you would like to apply some corrective actions to. Whereas proactive analysis is if you are doing some analysis to identify potential problem areas that you need to put some preventative measures in place for. So regardless of which of these two types of analysis you perform, the root cause analysis follows a very simple but very effective diagram. So you may have seen this diagram, which is, like I said, sometimes called a fishbone diagram or a cause and effect diagram. Now, it looks a bit like a fishbone, with the head really being the effect or the problem. So let's go through these steps, and I will explain to you how to draw one of these diagrams, and then we'll talk a bit more about a practical example of how to actually apply this in the real world. But effectively, you start by identifying the issue or the problem with a box at the one end of the page. Then you will draw a line, which in this case is showing an arrow, which is totally fine. And that is like the spine of the fishbone. But then from this line, you will start to draw diagonal lines where we've got one, there we've got one, over there and over there. And each of those represents a category of where the typical causes could originate from. And then you will do some primary cause lines, and this is where you'll start describing what could be causing this effect within this category. And you can even break it down into secondary and tertiary causes by adding smaller lines in the way that it's shown on this diagram. So once you kind of understand what to do, how you get the primary causes and secondary causes is by typically being in a group situation where you could potentially do some brainstorming together. You can also apply other analysis techniques like the 5 whys, for example, to try and get down to what could be causing these different issues, and is it really causing the main problem we're experiencing. So you can also refer to other research techniques to be able to go and do a bit of analysis. Perhaps you're doing some data analysis, looking at certain patterns, or just following the process backwards to try and identify where issues could be originating from. So there could be a variety of different techniques applied to come up with all these potential causes, or perhaps they are all contributing to the main problem or the main potential problem that could be prevented. So now let's have a look at a real-world example that will maybe make this come to life a bit more. So let's imagine we've got a problem. So we're e-commerce retailer who recently discovered that their last quarter's order to fulfillment process is performing 30% slower than the previous quarter. So that is kind of our problem, is that we are performing at 30% slower than the previous quarter, which could have all kinds of repercussions. Some of the facts that we know at this stage before starting our active root cause analysis is we know that the company uses the e-commerce online ordering solution. They use a separate inventory management system, and they dispatch orders with some manual intervention in the process. We also know that this company recently moved their warehouse from Manila to Sydney. They also made 20 order processing staff redundant, and the company is currently, however, experiencing strong customer growth. So knowing those facts gives us a starting point to start brainstorming and doing further analysis as to what could potentially be causing this particular problem. So if we come back to the actual root cause analysis or the root cause diagram, here we can have a look and say, so we've put our major problem of 30% reduction in fulfillment rate as our primary need or our primary problem at the head of the fishbone or the diagram. Then we've got some general categories, and these can be generic categories that you apply in multiple different business problem analysis, or these could be specific to the organization. It's one of those times where you use your kind of gut feel and your common sense. But personnel and processes are often categories that are used to help get the process started. So we've got personnel and processes and demand identified. Please note that this particular answer is simply a partial potential answer to our problem. So this does not include everything. And remember that we all interpret facts and some rules and assumptions differently. So our diagrams might be slightly different. So let's have a look. So we've got reduced capacity in personnel. So we've lost 20 people recently to redundancy. We also moved the warehouse. So there will be new staff in Sydney who may not actually know what to do very well yet. So they may need to kind of be trained first, or they may at the moment be the reason why orders are being processed slower. Generally, because of the redundancies, there might be a bit of low morale going on within the overall team, which will affect their performance. Then, as they've also said to us, that there's some manual intervention during the fulfillment process, and manual processes will always cause errors. And manual processes that needs to be, or errors that needs to be corrected, can also slow down the fulfillment rate. And then, of course, if you are overloaded by customer orders, they said to us that they are actually having higher customer growth. There'll be an increased demand, which could be putting pressure on the system, which slows everything down. So now that you've got a rough idea of all the potential causes of this particular effect, you'll be in a much better position to really drill down on each of those to determine which are really primary causes, and how and what action plans can you put and agree with your group in order to take action to resolve those particular causes or improve those particular causes. So typically, and you will find this when you look at the template that's provided as part of this particular lesson, there will be an action plan at the end of running a root cause analysis within your team or within a workshop, where everybody knows, okay, so we've got a good idea of where we think the problems are occurring or what's causing the issues, and then let's put together an action plan of how we can go and address some of these causes and see whether we can improve our overall problem. But when should you do a root cause diagram? So as a business analyst, you typically, like we said, you'll do a root cause analysis when there is a particular problem that needs to be analyzed. So this is always a good way to start. And also it helps, if this particular diagram helps to visually demonstrate or illustrate what could potentially be contributing to a particular problem that's being experienced. So it's a great communication tool. So well done for getting through this entire lesson on how to do a root cause analysis. I trust you've learned something new in how to approach problems in the office, and you can use this diagram very effectively within workshops and within your daily role as a business analyst. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, remember to like or subscribe. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.